Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I get a lot of questions about sort of the small arms military situation. Are people actually able to defend themselves now that it's going to become like urban warfare?
Yeah.
And not the bombing stuff, but the people in the cities sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we actually started going live. We still have about 4 minutes.
Okay.
But we're waiting for everybody else to join.
Okay. Okay. Thanks very much. Thank you, Yumi.
I'm just checking the stream.
Alexa, are you on the call right now?
I think they will be joining again at 6 o'clock.
3 minutes. Okay, thank you.
One other person we might think about interviewing, Florina, will you make a note of this? Is we talked last week with International Orthodox Christian Charities, which is based in the United States, or the International Arm of the Orthodox Church. And they were sending a team to Romania, Ukraine, Moldova, to look at the situation this week to figure out what they should do. So someone from their team might be an interesting interview. Be there on they visited Moldova as well as Romania and Ukraine.
Another good person, Jim, might be Arafat, who's coordinating the whole effort here in Romania. He used to be in charge of COVID.
Oh my, the poor guy. Oh my God.
He's had everything except the economic meltdown in 2008. So he's
going to do climate change next.
Yeah. So anyways, he's
yeah, absolutely.
He would be good, and he's a friend of Alianta, and he always said if you ever want
yeah. No, I think it'd be any of those are great. Any of those.
Sure,
so we have about 2 minutes. Just reminding everyone that people are going to join now.
Who should I speak to at the embassy, Jim, about the Kamala Harris visit?
The only person I know is Muniz. Although Florina has some other people. I've talked to the DCM too. The acting DCM. Florina can help you with that.
Okay.
And also, John, maybe we can take that offline because we're about to go live, So.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna let everybody in, and then I'm gonna let everybody know just kind of the rules of engagement. Okay.
You would go first.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are about to start the meeting. I would just ask everybody to stay on mute if you're not talking or asking questions, and stay off video so that we can better see our speakers, Mr. Paun Rohovei and John Florescu and Ambassador Jim Rosapep. We will have time to, hopefully we'll have time to answer questions at the end. And I will be translating from Romanian, so please bear with me while we go back and forth between Romanian and English. John?
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Of course, it's a difficult moment now, particularly, here we are in Eastern Europe. And I want to thank Mr. Rohovei, Paun Rohovei, who is a historian as well as a diplomat. He's been a diplomat since 1999. And he has also served in Moldova and in Romania. And he has limited time today, as you can imagine. And we want to thank him and also his assistant, Mr. Alexander Slayton, who's going to be helping with the translations. I went yesterday to the board at Seget, and we'll have a short 4.5-minute video that will come at the end of this conversation. So let me turn to Mr. Rohovei and to the translators with a series of questions. And we begin with question number 1, and I'll ask you to speak just in short sentences. Go ahead to translate. What do you hear from back home? Is Ukrainian military still operating well and reliably with these Russian advances? Uluca, maybe.
Prima întrebare este dacă ce știți despre armata rusească și înaintarea ei, care sunt ultimele știri?
În primul rând, dacă îmi permiteți, aș vrea să aduc mulțumiri pentru posibilitatea de a fi onorat o astfel de asistență de oameni de valoare.
First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for joining and being in our helping us.
Sunt foarte bucuros să-l văd pe domnul ambasador Rosapepi, fiindcă am avut ocazia să am activitate aici în România și mi-aduc aminte când era ambasador aici.
I'm especially happy to see Ambassador Rosapep here because we had the opportunity to work together in Romania.
Sunt bucuros să fiu alături de dumneavoastră. În același timp, am foarte multă tristețe și foarte multă durere sufletească, ținând cont de faptul ce se întâmplă în țara mea.
I'm happy to be here, but at the same time, I am very sad and very upset about what is currently going on in my country.
Ceea ce face astăzi Federația Rusă, războiul de fapt împotriva Ucrainei, e un război mărșăv și un război criminal.
What the Russian Federation is doing today, the war in Ukraine, is a despicable war and a despicable act.
E o strășnicie din punct de vedere a faptului că mor foarte mulți oameni civili. Mor foarte mulți oameni civili.
It's especially tragic because a lot of people are dying, a lot of civilians are dying.
Acest război a fost gândit de Putin ca un război de cucerire a Ucrainei în câteva ore.
This war was initially planned by Putin as to take only a few hours.
Dar realitatea a arătat altceva.
But the reality showed something else.
De fapt, Putin nu a înțeles că riposta îi va da un popor întreg.
Putin didn't understand that a whole people will answer and fight back.
Probabil că Putin nu înțelege că există popor.
Putin probably doesn't understand the Ukrainian people.
necătând la faptul că a atacat Ucraina cu o armată imensă. Vreau să vă asigur că armata ucraineană a fost aptă de a riposta. Planurile lui...
Despite the fact that he attacked the Ukraine with a huge army, I can assure you that the Ukrainian army is very competent and able to fight back.
De fapt, planurile lui Putin, care constau în ocuparea imediată a celor mai importante centre din Ucraina, s-a prăbușit.
In fact, Putin's plan to immediately occupy the most important centers in Ukraine has fallen apart.
La etapa actuală a trecut la a doua parte a planului său, care, după câte înțeleg, nu a reușit să cucerească Ucraina foarte repede. A trecut la planul de a nimici orașele mari, de a nimici populația din aceste orașe.
And currently, they have moved on to the second phase of the war, which consists in destroying the larger cities and destroying the population in the largest cities.
I was just going to ask there, does the DCM believe that the military is functioning still efficiently back home? Are they still able to function in command structure well back home?
Credeți că armata funcționează în continuare eficient și funcționează la fel de bine în Ucraina ca înainte?
Pe parcursul a 8 ani de război, de fapt, cu Rusia, noi am creat o armată bine organizată. Partenerii noștri și, în primul rând, Statele Unite.
Over the 8 years of actual practical war with the Russian Federation, we were able to create a very strong and very well-trained army.
Let me ask
with the help from our allies and especially the United States.
Am reușit să creăm o armată bine făcută și bine înarmată, care astăzi, într-adevăr, ripostează. Armata ucraineană există și faptul care ne dovedește acest lucru.
We were able to create a very well-trained army and an army that is capable to respond in force and is today still defending the Ukraine.
Faptul care ne dovedește acest lucru este că armata rusă nu a reușit să cucerească niciun oraș mare din Ucraina.
And what proves this is the fact that the Russian army has not been able to take over even one city in the Ukraine, a large city in the Ukraine.
Luptele se duc la periferiile acestor orașe.
The fight is happening at the edge of these cities.
Armata ucraineană reușește să riposteze și chiar să nimicească coloane întregi ale ruși.
And the Ukrainian army is able to respond and even annihilate whole lines of Russian army.
Does he feel that the Russian troops themselves are defecting? We've heard of them putting holes in the tanks of the gas tanks and things like that. Has he heard anything about that?
Aveți informații despre faptul că militarii ruși dezertează. Noi am auzit că fac găuri în tancurile lor și pleacă, fug de acolo, din armată.
Da, avem astfel de informații.
Yes, we have information of this kind.
Și vă spun de ce se întâmplă acest lucru.
And I will tell you why this is happening.
Cum am spus la bine început, această invazie în Ucraina era programată într-un timp foarte scurt.
Like I initially said, this invasion of Ukraine was scheduled to last a very short amount of time.
Putin credea că va reuși în maxim 2-3 zile.
Putin thought that he would succeed in maximum 2 or 3 days.
Bineînțeles, reieșind din aceste planuri, el și-a programat și aprovizionarea armatei cu combustibil, cu muniții, cu tot restul ce are nevoie din punct de vedere logistic.
And of course, because this was the plan initially, they also planned the logistic accordingly. So they only planned for a very short amount of short amount of fuel and food.
În realitate,
Sorry, go on.
pornind o ripostă mare, războiul practic s-a prelungit în timp.
And because they got a very strong pushback from the Ukrainians, the war has been going on for a lot longer than they expected.
O mare parte a armatei ruse a început să demoralizeze.
And the Russian army started being demoralized.
I'd like to ask Mr. Rohovei that we heard that the Chechens had sent a death squad to kill the president, but the Ukrainians managed to eliminate them. And is it true that the Ukrainians were tipped off by the Russian security services where the Chechen troops were?
Aveți informații că un grup de ceceni a încercat să-l asasineze pe președintele Ucrainei și că ei au fost avertizați de către serviciile secrete ruse că așa ceva se va întâmpla?
Desigur, toate informațiile nu le posed, dar ceea ce e oficial vă pot spune clar. A fost pregătit un grup de elită format din provenienți din Cecenia, care avea ca sarcină de a înlătura, de a elimina președintele Zelensky.
Of course, I don't have all the information, but what I can confirm is that there was a group of elite Chechen fighters whose mission was to assassinate the Ukrainian president.
Și aici, într-adevăr, serviciile speciale și-au avut aportul său. Eu nu pot spune prin ce căi și cum a fost obținută informația. Nu am astfel de date. Dar cert pot spune că această informație a fost primită și datorită acestui lucru, acest grup care era de elită și era lăudat, a fost eliminat într-o jumătate de ore a fost eliminat.
And I can't say through what means the information got to Ukraine, but what I can tell you is that this group tried to attack and they were eliminated within half an hour or so.
Let me ask Mr. Rohovei, is that how many people are leaving the Ukraine each week? And does he anticipate that pace to continue?
Vreau să vă întreb dacă știți câte persoane părăsesc Ucraina săptămânal și cum vă așteptați să evolueze aceste cifre?
Uitați-vă la etapa actuală, cele mai proaspete date care le-am primit este până în ziua de astăzi în jur de 1.500.000 de oameni au părăsit Ucraina.
Currently, based on the latest numbers that we received, about 1,500,000 people have left Ukraine.
Cel mai mare val de părăsire a Ucrainei a fost chiar în primele zile de război.
The biggest wave of people fleeing was during the first days of the war.
De exemplu, în România, până în ziua de astăzi, au sosit în jur de 150.000 de cetățeni ai Ucrainei.
For instance, in Romania, up until today, we got about 150,000 Ukrainian citizens.
Având un contact extraordinar de bun cu autoritățile române și foarte bine înțelegând situația, partea română ne-a ajutat foarte mult în acest sens. În România s-a oferit undeva până în jur de s-a oferit să ne dea voie să intre până în jur de 500.000 de refugiați.
And we have a really good relationship with the Romanian government, and the Romanian government was extremely helpful in receiving these refugees, and we currently have approval to for the entrance of up to 500,000 refugees in Romania.
And on that point, which is quite interesting, the Russian are moving around and in some places advancing. Hopefully they'll be blocked, but are there any particular border points that are more helpful to the Ukrainians to enter into Romania? Is it to the east? Is it where any particular border points that he thinks are more easy access for Ukrainian citizens to come to Romania?
Dacă puteți să ne dați niște informații referitoare la care sunt punctele de frontieră prin care cetățenii ucrainieni pot să treacă în România și care e situația la fiecare dintre ele. Este vreunul dintre ele la care e mai ușor de trecut sau mai greu?
În general, practic, la toate punctele este aglomerație. Dar cum v-am spus,
Generally, all the border crossing points are very, very crowded.
Cel mai mare val a trecut deja.
The biggest wave has passed already.
Acum situația se ameliorează.
The situation is getting a little bit better now.
Sunt câteva puncte de trecere. Principalul este Porupnoe Seret.
Principalul punct de the main border crossing is at Siret.
Al doilea punct la sud, Ucraina spre România, un punct nou de trecere, Orlovka-Isaccea.
There is a new crossing point towards the south, Orlovka-Isaccea.
Și cel de la nord-vest, sunt două puncte de trecere. Punctul de trecere Sighetul Marmației Solotvina.
And in the northwest, go ahead.
Punctul de trecere Sighetul Marmației Solotvina și punctul de trecere Diacovo-Halmeu.
To the northwest, there are two border crossing points. One at Sighetul Marmației and the other one at Halmeu.
Correct. And what are the needs from the Ukrainian side, from the humanitarian point of view? From a humanitarian point of view, what are the needs as far as he sees them right now?
Care sunt nevoile refugiaților? Care ar fi principalele nevoi ale refugiaților din punctul dumneavoastră de vedere?
Eu aș zice aici mai mult problemele care apar problemele care apar în fața lor.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about the problems that they are facing.
Okay.
O mare parte de refugiați care au venit deja în România doresc să-și continue călătoria în țări terțe.
Most of the refugees that enter Romania would like to keep traveling towards third countries.
Au prieteni în Polonia, Ungaria, Slovacia, mulți au planificat să plece spre țările acestea, dar au luat drumul cel mai scurt, de exemplu prin România.
They have friends or relatives in other countries, in Poland or Hungary, for instance, but they took the shortest way out of the country.
Și aici apare o problemă.
And this is where there is a big problem.
Mulți din ei au sosit în România fără acte de identitate pentru călătorii peste hotare, fără pașaport.
Many of them came without documents, without actually possessing documents or passports.
Ori în cazul ăsta, ei pot staționa, cei care nu au acte de călătorie peste graniță, adică nu au pașapoarte, pot staționa numai în România.
And so that means that because they don't have passports or any documentation, they can only stay in Romania.
Aici ar fi un lucru foarte important dacă am putea, prin colaborare cu toate părțile implicate.
And this is an important an important ask that we were hoping to bring to all the parties involved.
De a da voie la acei oameni care sunt considerați refugiați de a trece în altele țări ale Uniunii Europene cu acele acte care le au.
To allow refugees to enter other European Union countries with the documents that they have on them, even if they don't possess passports.
Și în acest context, ținând cont de faptul că, de fapt, toate țările Uniunii Europene s-au angajat să primească refugiați din Ucraina.
And in this context, all the European Union countries have agreed to receive refugees from the Ukraine.
Deci e vorba de un fel de regim de liberă circulație pe teritoriul Uniunii Europene a acestor refugiați. Dar asta hotărăște Bruxelles de asta.
So we're talking about a special status where the Ukrainian citizens would be allowed to transit and circulate in the European Union countries. But this is something that Brussels needs to decide on.
Această problemă e o problemă obiectivă, deoarece mulți oameni, fiind sub bombardament, nici nu și-au găsit actele, documentele, au mers cu ce au avut ei, adică ce au avut la îndemână.
And this is a real practical problem because a lot of people, when the bombs started falling, they didn't have time to look for any documents or passports. They just left.
Soluționarea acestui aspect, în sensul în care l-am spus, ar rezolva și altă problemă. Ar descărca puțin altele țări de cheltuieli suplimentare. Deci vă spun, mulți sunt din cei care nu au acte, dar au unde trăi în țări terți. De exemplu, au venit în România, dar are casă în Polonia sau are rude în Polonia și ar putea merge în Polonia. Și aici ar soluționa foarte multe probleme care apar în fața lor, în fața autorităților române și așa mai departe.
So solving this problem would also ease the pressure on other countries, including Romania in general, because some of these people have houses in Poland or in other countries, and they would be able to travel there, and this would ease the pressure that exists currently on Romania.
I would like to ask Mr. Rohovei how he sees the situation evolving in Moldova, because in Moldova, of course, the Russian troops have advanced more closely to that country, and Secretary Blinken was there with the Moldovan Prime Minister either yesterday or the day before. But how does he see the evolution of that situation in Moldova? You think the Moldovans will hold firm like the Ukrainians?
Cum vedeți situația din Moldova? Știm că secretarul Antony Blinken a fost acolo în vizită, dar credeți că în caz că se întâmplă ceva, moldovenii vor rezista la fel ca cei din Ucraina?
Situația, după câte știu eu, situația în Republica Moldova e liniștită. E liniștită, dar aș spune liniștită în ghilimele.
As far as I know, the situation in Moldova is quiet, and I would say quiet in quotation marks.
Și de ce? Există un factor mare de risc pe teritoriul Republicii Moldova, și anume Transnistria.
There is a really big risk factor in Moldova, and that is Transnistria.
Dacă am presupune că planul teoretic al Putin ar fi realizat și el prevede, de invazia și în regiunea Odessa până la Transnistria.
If we suppose that Putin's plan is going to be executed and he is going to conquer all the territories up to including Odessa.
Bineînțeles că va ajunge până la Transnistria și atunci ar fi posibil ca Moldova să fie atrasă în același conflict.
And of course, that would include Transnistria, and that would cause Moldova to be pulled into that same conflict.
Mr. Rohovei, do you favor the suggestion that came in the last 24 hours of the West, or Poland in particular, providing MiG planes and allowing those to enter the battle scene over the Ukraine?
Domnule Rohovei, ce părere aveți despre propunerea ca Polonia să dea voie avioanelor MiG să intre pe teritoriul lor, să zboare în ajutorul Ucrainei?
Eu știu un singur lucru.
I know one thing, and one thing only.
NATO nu participă în acest război, acest conflict între Rusia și Ucraina.
NATO is not participating in this war, in this conflict between Russia and the Ukraine.
De aceea, chestii legate de faptul ce ar face un stat NATO sau nu ar face un stat NATO, nu aș vrea să le comentez.
And this is why I don't want to speculate what a NATO state would or would not do.
You were saying that the Russians earlier have been slowed down a lot. Let me just ask the question, how effective would a guerrilla war be moving forward as the months go by in terms of occupying Russian force?
Ați menționat că armata rusă a fost mult încetinită. În contextul acesta aș vrea să vă întreb cum credeți că un război de gherilă s-ar desfășura și ar ține mult timp, luni de zile? Cum vedeți această situație?
Armata ucraineană e pregătită pentru un război de gherilă. În același timp, noi avem o mare necesitate de armament și le aduc recunoștință partenerilor noștri pentru ajutorul care ne-l acordă.
The Ukrainian army is prepared for a full-blown guerrilla war. We have had help from our allies, and we're very grateful for the help that we've been given.
Dar cel mai important lucru aici ar fi susținerea inițiativei Ucrainei ca NATO să închidă cerul asupra Ucrainei.
But the most important thing here would be to grant Ukraine's request that NATO close the airspace above Ukraine.
Pentru noi e un pericol foarte mare aviația și tragerile de rachete.
For us, the Russian aviation and the rockets that they fire is a really big problem, a big danger.
In terms of also aggressive acts, we hear that the Ukrainian government websites and internet have been infiltrated by the Russians. Has that occurred, and has that occurred in the foreign ministry of the Ukrainian government?
În același timp am auzit că comunicațiile și site-urile Ucrainei au fost infiltrate de către Rusia. Ce puteți să ne spuneți despre asta?
Au fost diferite atacuri cibernetice asupra site-urilor guvernamentale. La etapa actuală vreau să vă spun că ele nu funcționează niciunul. Dar partea ucraineană a fost pregătită de acest moment.
There have been several cyber attacks on the Ukrainian government websites, and I can tell you that right now none of them are up and running. But I can also tell you that the Ukrainian government was prepared for this.
Vreau să vă asigur că avem toate rețelele de comunicare cu autoritățile, de exemplu, ambasada cu autoritățile ucrainene, avem rețele alternative care foarte bine lucrează.
And I can assure you that we have alternative communication channels with Ukraine that are functioning very well.
Let me ask a question. We won't hold them. We're getting near the end of our time. Are you confident that something could come of the proposals that the Israelis seem to be discussing with Putin? And secondly, does he hold up much hope about the intervention of China in this conflict?
Vreau să vă întreb înainte că ne apropiem de limita timpului nostru și vreau să vă întreb ce părere aveți despre discuțiile pe care le are guvernul Israelului și dacă credeți că China poate să se implice într-un fel în conflictul acesta. Dacă aveți vreo speranță legată de convorbirile care se întâmplă acum cu Israelul.
Da, într-adevăr, Israelul e o țară care a suferit foarte multe conflicte, foarte multe războaie.
Israel is one of the countries that suffered a lot from many conflicts.
În același timp, Israelul e o țară cu multe experiențe de a soluționa, atât pe cale diplomatică cât și pe cale militară.
At the same time, Israel is one of the countries with the best experience to solve conflicts, both diplomatically and militarily.
De aceea, noi sperăm într-o oarecare măsură că orice țară care știe să-și apere interesele, inclusiv pe care militară, ar putea veni cu o propunere de soluție de a soluționa acest.
And this is why we are hoping that any such country that has experience in these matters could come with a viable solution to solve the current crisis. Proposal for a solution to solve the current crisis.
Mr. Rohovei, go on.
Ceea ce ține de China, nu aș crede că China se va implica cândva într-un astfel de conflict. Dacă ați observat în ultimul timp, ultimele zile, China are o poziție mai reținută de acest conflict. Dacă la început a fost exprimată o susținere, acum e mai mult o poziție tacidă decât activă.
As far as China is concerned, we don't believe that they are going to get involved in this conflict. In case you have, I'm not sure that you noticed, but initially they expressed their support for Russia, but now they have been quiet for a while.
Toată lumea civilizată a înțeles deja că Putin a trecut punctul de neîntoarcere.
The entire civilized world understood that Putin has passed the point of no return.
Putin a devenit un criminal de război prin ceea ce face.
Putin became a war criminal through what he has done.
De asta, societatea internațională, practic, chiar cei care erau alături de ei au început să se întoarcă cu spatele la ei.
And the whole international world, even those who were on their side, they started moving away from them.
Și aici joacă un rol foarte important și politica de sancțiuni, mai ales a Statelor Unite ale Americii, și vă sunt recunoscători pentru faptul că cu multă înțelepciune a fost luat acest lucru și realizat în practică.
And a very important role in all this is played by the sanctions that the whole world has imposed, and especially the United States. And we want to thank you. We are very grateful for everything that you've done in this space.
And one final question, Mr. Rohovei, final question, întrebare final. If you would like the United States or its NATO partners to take one particular further step, what would that be?
Ultima întrebare, dacă ați putea să recomandați un pas pe care Uniunea Europeană și NATO să îl facă, care ar fi acela?
La etapa actuală, reieșind din situația gravă care este acum, pentru a putea rezista la atacurile valuri a armatei rusă, cel mai important lucru pentru noi ar fi închiderea cerului.
At this point, the most important thing for us would be the closing of the airspace. Closing the airspace.
Mr. Rohovei, thank you very much for your time. We've exceeded your time. We want to thank you very much for participating, and we hope to be back in touch with you in the future.
Vă mulțumim foarte mult pentru participare. Cred că am depășit timpul pe care ni l-ați și vrem să vă mulțumim foarte mult pentru participare și sperăm să continuăm conversația și pe viitor.
Cu multă plăcere. Și încă o dată aș vrea să menționez faptul că sunt onorat de a fi alături de dumneavoastră. Cu multă plăcere aș putea fi oaspete de dumneavoastră și în viitor.
You're very welcome. I'm very honored to participate, and I will be your guest in the future at any time.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and also to Alexander. I'd like to ask the other guests who are listening in that Raluca has queued up a 4.5 minute video that was taken yesterday at one of the border points that Mr. Rohovei mentioned, in fact, when he was talking about various border points to consider in the future. And so we'll ask you, you've got that?
Yeah, but we do have a few questions in the
Okay.
comments. I'm not sure if Mr. Rohovei has time for any of them. Nu știu dacă domnul Rohovei are timp să răspundă la întrebările pe care le-au pus unii participanți. Știm că timpul dumneavoastră este limitat, așa că voiam să vă dăm opțiunea să luați câteva întrebări.
Da, într-adevăr, o să iau aceste întrebări, o să le studiez, dar cu părere de rău sunt prins, telefonul mi e roșu, de asta aș fi nevoit să plec de permisiunea noastră.
Mulțumim mult, absolut înțelegem. Thank you very much and we totally understand. La revedere. Okay, I'm going to play the video now. John, if you want to introduce the video.
Yeah, this video was, we were up in yesterday in the border point, and we spent the day there. So here's some shots and a bit of narrative just given by myself. So we're at Sighetul Marmației, which is on the very northern part of Romania, about a 14-hour train journey and a 10-hour car journey. So I think it speaks for itself. We're just trying to queue it up here.
Yeah, we are queuing it up. I apologize.
No trouble at all. I was saying earlier to Jim Rosapep that obviously one gets a feeling that there's a little more tension in Bucharest right now, and in fact around the country. And everybody is pretty close to their TV sets. I know that even the DCM, when we saw him this morning at the Ukrainian embassy, was watching news from, here we go.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, excellent.
Is it running? Do I have to do anything or? We're ready. Here we are on the border point of Sighet, and these are the tents that are being prepared, all ready for use with heating, even air conditioning. And this has capacity for 200, which is next to a municipal high school. These are the administrative buildings, and they're in hold right now, but they have been used by some Indian students who actually were served vegetarian food. We are at the train station at Sighet. As you can see, it's an empty platform. It's a 14-hour train trip to Bucharest, and this is the direction of the Ukraine in the other way, and the train railway lines are a different width, so it's not an easy transport. This is the Red Cross on the Romanian side, and people gathering around, press and other individuals. This is the Romanian border at Sighet. Behind me is the Ukrainian side. There have been about 16,000 people who have crossed this point in the last, since hostilities began. The Romanian authorities, of course, don't know how many more will be coming, but they seem well prepared. This is the Tisa River. It is a bridge made out of wood, so it has a capacity of withholding about 3.5 metric tons. In other words, smaller trucks. There's a lot of equipment and materials that are gathered on the Romanian side, but there's a limited flow coming over, and certainly right now we don't see too many Ukrainians coming towards the Romanian side. Here we are on the Tisa River. Ukraine is off on that way, right? And it, on the left side. So just explain it, Juana.
So people are also crossing through water over there where the water is smaller or shallow. They cross from there if they run from the authorities. Mainly men that have to stay in their country and fight and don't want to do that, they cross the river.
They cross the border.
Yeah.
And the water's deep? How deep is the water?
It's
Further
up to the knee or to the chest.
Further up?
Yeah.
Not here?
Yeah.
I see. And this is the town of Slatina on the other side. On
Yeah.
the left-hand side is Slatina, which is the Ukrainian side. On the Romanian side of the bridge between Ukraine and Romania, Romanian kids have been leaving toys for children who cross over, so that when they get to the Romanian side, they have a little something to see. You see in the lower right. You all came from Kiev,
Yeah, from Kiev region.
in the Kiev region, and there's your mother and your sister, I see. Let's go up on the side here. And so tell us, how did you get out of Kiev? By train or what?
No, we came by car. Actually, my brother picked me up early on the 24th morning, like at 5 a.m. because we are living next to Borispil. So we heard everything since the beginning. And we left Kiev, and my parents were here on vacation, so mom and sister, they stayed. And dad went back home, and I just arrived there. And my brother also, he bring me to this region, and he went back to take some help next to border on his car, like some medicine and food, and he's driving back to Kiev now.
And are you hopeful that things will get resolved? What's your feeling?
I hope, really, I believe in our president, in our army, in our country, and everything. And also I hope that maybe people from
So we're back on. Raluca? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. If anybody has any questions, that was a rather moving situation with that young family, and we actually took them to Cluj so they get on a train and get on their way, as Mr. Rohovei pointed out, points west. In which case they're trying to make their way, hopscotch their way to Berlin.
And maybe we can have Jim back to
Is Jim still on?
talk a little bit about the initiatives that
Thank you. And thank you, John, for the video and putting this all together, and Raluca. This has been incredibly helpful to all of us. We have a number of questions in the chat. Let me address one or two of them, and then maybe Raluca, you can read some of them. And one of them was George Roth suggested, could we stay on for a while and have some discussion among ourselves who are on here about what's going on the humanitarian side? Because there are a number of people on here doing different things who may want to talk about what they're doing. Big picture from Alianta's point of view, we have brought on to work with us on the Ukraine crisis, Dwayne Butcher, who was a former DCM in the US Embassy in Bucharest, retired from the Foreign Service, and he has been working with Florina on our staff to identify the charitable efforts and humanitarian efforts that involve the United States and Romania for the Ukrainians. And so we expect in the next week or so that Alianza will be going out to our supporters and members with some options, some advice. Obviously, speed was important, and lots of people did things very fast. And the report that John showed us really shows that, including little kids from Romania, which is just heartwarming. My own view is that this is going to be a long fight and a long tragedy. And so we want to be there over the long haul. And so we are talking with a number of folks to try to figure out how we can be most helpful. And we'll be back in touch about that. But there's no reason we shouldn't have a conversation here today on people's thoughts about how they can help, about how other people are helping, to try to educate all of us on moving forward. The other thing, there was one other question that was more on the diplomatic, political side, is I think that there are going to continue to be major questions. Obviously, one of the questions that Ukraine has raised and the DCM raised was this notion of they would very much like a no-fly zone, which NATO has said they will not do. And obviously the reason is because if NATO did that, it would put NATO in direct military conflict with the Russians. And that's not a step that NATO has been willing to take at this point. Obviously, for a country like Romania, which is a member of NATO, being at war with Russia is different from having your neighbor at war with Russia. And so I think those kind of issues remain on the table. There are also the issues related, the DCM talked about, related to Ukrainians who come into Romania and where they want to go. One of the issues we are working with the American government and the Romanian government on is those who want to come to the United States. Yes, there are people who have Ukrainians who have relatives in Germany or relatives in Poland, but there are also Ukrainians who have relatives in the United States. And so that's another issue that we're working on. And finally, the US government is very committed to additional military and humanitarian aid directly to Ukraine. And President Biden has made a major proposal, $10 billion that is before Congress. And there we are working with the other representatives of constituencies of the United States, representing Polish Americans and Ukrainian Americans and Baltic Americans in support of Congress passing that quickly to provide additional governmental aid to Ukraine. Let me stop there and turn it over back to Raluca and to John.
Yeah, I think that George had some direct questions. So George, maybe you want to join the conversation, and
Great.
Anybody for that matter who wants to jump in and say something, ask some questions.
Yes, hello. I have only one question, and I sent Jim actually the email. And there are multiple things like that happening. So different organizations in the US are basically getting donations in kind. So all kinds of, for example, this was an organization in Maryland who I was told they collected all kinds of stuff and they want to see how to get it to the Ukrainian people. So the point is that it would be interesting to coordinate. I saw here Leslie and all these other organizations who are involved for this type of the last mile logistics, if there are stuff, how to get to Ukraine, because all the stuff is coming, and to make sure that we are not sending stuff which is not needed. So it's a kind of coordination into this would be really cool. I'm talking for the US point of view.
Very good advice.
I'll just point out for the last mile, if you're talking, George, about the last mile, I noticed when I was at the border point yesterday that there are different organizations, including the Red Cross, an organization that's connected called the White Maltese, who are, seem most active there. There are all kinds of Romanian organizations, church groups, and so forth. It has a little bit of a bizarre kind of, not bizarre, but bizarre kind of atmosphere. The person in charge of coordinating the aid is Dr. Arafat, who was our guest and was responsible for COVID earlier on. And he's been assigned to coordinate all this effort that's coming from all over and in all forms. From London this week, there were trucks arriving. There's material being collected. There's no shortage of material on the Romanian side of the border, at least with the amount of refugees we're looking at right now. I actually disagree with the DCM. I think that number could increase significantly, but obviously I think he's putting a positive spin on everything. So I think that what we should do is get in touch with Arafat and his organization, which is a national organization, who are trying to coordinate all this giving right up to the last mile, because they have the foot soldiers to deliver it to the border. They have the foot soldiers to get medicine that's needed over the border if necessary, and that kind of thing. So that would be my suggestion, and we're happy to follow up on this end.
Yeah, how can we get to him through you, John? Can we?
I mean, he's been a guest a couple times, and he's always very positive. He's got his hands full, but I certainly have a line into him, and hopefully I can get to him right away. I did reach out to him the other day because a couple of trucks were stopped at the Suret border, and those had come from London, and there was medicine in those trucks, which they wanted to get over the border. So there's two kinds of, humanitarian aid, stuff that goes to Ukraine and stuff that stays in Romania to take care of those people who are in Romania. Even monasteries, Orthodox and Catholic monasteries near the border have 70 refugees who are staying there.
John, Dwayne Butcher, who's our senior advisor on the crisis, will follow up with you and with Dr. Arafat.
Okay, fantastic. Okay.
Can I jump in? Hi, good morning. This is Jacob in Los Angeles. The Romanian consulate here in Los Angeles, we're having a big fundraiser, concert fundraiser on March 16th in cooperation with the city of Beverly Hills. We're trying to attract a lot of Beverly Hills movie entertainment people. So John, one, I'd like to get the link to your video. And secondly, if you can give me the name, like George mentioned before, one point of contact that is the more efficient, that we know exactly goes exactly to the people who need. So those two things, and I'll email you my data information, my contact information.
Well, what I think on the first question, Luca, just you could be sure to send that footage. In fact, we have some additional footage, but we're under such a press of time, we only able to put those 4.5 minutes. But I thought it saw a different size of what's going on the border and the stuff that's likely to continue.
We will share that with everybody, but like literally John's editor finished editing that video and making it available minutes before this meeting. So, but yes, absolutely. We'll make that available.
That will be very great, because we're projecting at the City Hall of Beverly Hills, and there'll be some other speakers and things like that. So anything that we can show the pain in their face will be very helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and what we might even do is to edit it a little more professionally, just with a little more time. The second thing is I'll speak to Dwayne, as Jim suggested. So and I'll find exactly who that person is, because it's very important getting a clean line through to people that actually do something. But I don't want to send everything right over to Mr. Arafat, because he's handling the whole national picture, international picture. So my suggestion is, let me speak to Dwayne, and then if you send me an email, I'll let you know who that contact person is. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, well, Luke, any other questions in the chat, or other folks want to raise?
Yes.
Good evening. May I?
Yep.
Mihai, we have Mihai. I think you're on mute, Mihai.
My name is Cătălin Băleanu. May I bring a point to the question, to the discussion?
I'm sorry, we did, because you're not on video, so we couldn't see you. Yes, please, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Cătălin Băleanu from Bucharest. I would like to bring to your attention an aspect related to the refugees, which maybe is not very well taken into account, and it's about the disinformation which started to spread about the refugees on social media. I noticed some messages on WhatsApp and also on Facebook where these refugees are painted like, they are creating problems, they are very pretentious, they don't like that they don't find hot water and things like that. Some of them are being picked up by very rich relatives from Western countries. In brief, what is the intention with these kind of messages is to portray the Ukrainian refugees in a very negative manner, so that to put a negative image also on Ukraine. It's not hard to understand from where does this information come. And I think on the long term, this might be a problem, because the intention is not only to present negative Ukraine, but also to weaponize as a political weapon this issue with the refugees. And in the end, to put pressure also on the government, who has to make spending about these refugees. And the idea which intends to be conveyed is, why do we have to spend and to get involved so much with these refugees? We have a lot of issues here in Romania, a lot of problems with our poor people, so we should not get involved too much.
Mihai, was it Cătălin?
Cătălin.
No, being at the border yesterday, I know exactly what you're talking about, because what you have is on the border crossings, you have people coming in Audis, you have people coming on bicycles, you have people coming on go-karts, you have people walking with bags. You've got it all. And certainly the people that had the money seemed like they were the first ones to leave. So when they arrive in Romania, some of them, you get the feeling as they're using whatever good, well-intended aid at the border just as a tourist agency to get them to the West, to get them to even a safer place. I think that, people are frankly concerned because they don't know how far this is going. So they leave their homes and they go in the countryside for a while. They wait there, watch there, listen, and then they decide, okay, let's move on. And this may be, if we're lucky enough, they think we have a relative here or a relative there in Berlin or Paris or Italy. Whereas other people who don't have those means and they intend to stay at the border or near the border and wait it out so they can go back because they can't afford to go anywhere, because they don't know anybody really to the West. And it's all rather confusing. So I think that you have a little bit of both. I think stressing those people, the behavior of those people who just want to go west, I think is unfair. I mean, in a way, people obviously want to be as safe as possible. Usually as safe as possible means go as far west as possible. That's what the attitude is. But I don't think...
I understand perfectly. What I'm trying to say is this is propaganda, this is disinformation, which tries to emphasize some negative aspects, which are exaggerated or maybe not true at all, in order to paint the refugees in a negative way. Also, this will lead people to think about Ukraine in a negative way, and to create a general opinion negative about Ukraine. And who is profiting from this? It's not difficult to understand.
We know that. We know that, and we work with Facebook and Google and with all these people here to try to counter this effort. We know this. So
yes, this was my remarks. Maybe something more efficient can be done related to this issue. Because this is,
and I think we are constantly messaging, and emphasizing the positive messaging. And I think that especially like the way that we see it from the United States, the reaction of the Romanian community has been overwhelmingly positive. And we're definitely trying to emphasize that and kind of drown out the negative. But I wanted to go over to Mihai because he's been raising his hand for a long time. So go ahead, Mihai.
Thank you so much for providing this chance to speak today and to be here today. I'm sorry I was on 2 meetings, sort of juggling 2 meetings simultaneously. So I just wanted to say that Romania Fund retains and really desires to be able to provide support for smaller organizations and as many organizations as possible. We have this fund which is going now, is closing in on $200,000. Our goal is to immediately, efficiently, and as fast as possible provide this money, transfer this money to organizations that are on the ground there. We have identified the 3 that you might know about, Save the Children, Red Cross, and World Vision, but we're at the board level, we're in discussion, and we're going to figure out the best ways to allocate this funding, and we're going to try to do it as soon as possible. And if there's any questions, I stand ready for any questions.
I just want to say thank you, Mihai, for your organization's leadership right out of the box and being so forward-leaning on this. So we want to help you in every way we can. So thank you for joining us today.
Other questions?
Leslie actually asked the first question: what are the best ways that Americans can contribute to the needs of Ukrainians in Romania? Right. I think that's something that comes up very often because people there in the U.S. are further away, and they might not be able to drive down to the border and transport some people. So what would be the best ways to help from the United States?
Could I jump in on that, John?
My feeling is that there are a lot of people that call up and say, have all kinds of offers, but keep in mind the United States is far away. So if you're thinking of blankets and things that we ourselves in our car brought up to the border, that's a difficult proposition because of shipping and sending it over. I think if you're talking about the United States, my view, I guess, is it's just that the financial help and the financial help put in the right hands. Now, there's all kinds of organizations, the Rotary Club, which is well known in the United States. They have 100 branches in Romania, and they are raising, set to raise 100,000. Mihai was talking about 200,000. Red Cross, I saw them, they were at the border. They're quite visible, and they would seem like they're doing a lot. I think UNICEF was supposedly somewhere at the border. I didn't see them, but I think what we could do maybe is come up with a recommendation, a specific recommendation, and send it out to everybody and say, we feel these people get the stuff to the people that need it. There's all little rumors of people that are mocking it up, selling it, and all this kind of stuff. But I think my sense overall, when I saw them handling the supplies at the city hall, it was being well tagged, it was being put into trucks, it was being handled by people who are clearly volunteers and well-wishing. Obviously, there was some risk of things leaking here and there. But I think if we come up with a specific recommendation, Jim, maybe we give it a few days, right? And
Yep.
But otherwise, there are these, as I said, Red Cross and the Rotary Club are certainly active right on the ground here.
And we have been posting on social media a lot of resources, links to resources, including to the Romanian United Fund and ways you can donate there. And we'll continue to post things and ways in which everybody can help, because everybody's trying to help, and everybody does their best. And we're very, very grateful. And go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
Let's jump in on this. Everything John said, totally agree with. We're going to continue to provide more information in terms of organizations to give money to. We're definitely doing that. But the other thing that I would raise is the U.S. government $10 billion proposal to put U.S. government humanitarian aid and U.S. government military aid to Ukraine is going to be very important. The point that Catalin raised about the disinformation, misinformation, people in Romania saying, well, what are you doing for us? I think that problem is going to grow in the United States over time. And so it's very important. And that's what Alianta is very focused on. In addition to the direct aid, is the support to have the president and the Congress provide the government support. So I would encourage everybody on here from the United States, contact their member of Congress and say, you need to support the president's proposal for $10 billion in additional aid from the United States to Ukraine. That's another specific thing you can do. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Theodore Stan.
Theodore Stan.
Hi, everyone. Just following up on Mihai Lehenet's comment. So in our rapid response immigration research forum, together with a number of other organizations that are the founding members of the Federation of Romanian Organizations, we decided to act together jointly to fundraise in one place, and that's the most timely vehicle was the Romanian United Fund. That's why reaching the goal fast with the backing and the support of the Romanian embassy was an important goal. But now we're all concentrating on how to get that assistance in Romania. And last night, the Immigration Research Forum held a marathon fundraising with Romanian American writers and intellectuals. And we had a guest from the border in Siret, who has been the president of Save the Children Romania for over 30 years. She's now retired, and we can put you in touch with her. Save the Children has the boots on the ground at the border, helping, and I can share with you also the video about their activities at the border. They've organized themselves in an amazing way. We, through Fora and Romanian United Fund and the fundraising that we have together, we hope to help the Romanian Red Cross. And I've been in touch with Mr. Lether at the Romanian Red Cross, who's coordinating with the Ukrainian Red Cross. And he's in touch, of course, with Mr. Arafat. about providing help across the border as well, because there are people that cannot, even if they wanted to, they cannot reach the Romanian border. It's even in peaceful times, it's like 15 hours to get from Kiev to Siret, and that cannot happen, for example, with pregnant women, women that are due to deliver in Kiev. So it needs to be a coordinated effort between the Romanian Red Cross and the Ukrainian Red Cross in assuring the medical assistance and supervision of newborns and pregnant women out of Kiev, hopefully towards Chernowitz. I'm originally from Timișoara, and the mayor of Timișoara has worked for many years in the NGO sector, organized successfully already a convoy of humanitarian aid that I believe yesterday reached Chernowitz from Suceava to Chernowitz. So we already have a first instance where a Romanian convoy of humanitarian aid was delivered to Chernowitz. I think there is a brother partnership twinning between Chernowitz and Timișoara, and that's why it was possible. So just to let you know that these things are possible and have been implemented already. I believe the convoy has reached Chernowitz already. So if there is any other information I can provide, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you. Thanks very much for that. Thank you. It looks like. Okay, anybody else has a comment or question or something to add to the conversation? Terrific. Okay, well then we have, I've taken a few notes, and Raluca, you have as well, so we know what we have to follow in on. I think the most important thing I'm hearing is people want to know how specifically they can send either primarily funds to Romania that will actually have impact on the ground. And I think we'll get our guidance from both the U.S. Embassy as well as from Ms. Dr. Arafat. And then the video that we edited quickly today, you'll send it around. You'll send that around. People can use.
Perry, did you want to jump in real quick? We're past the top of the hour, so but go ahead.
Yeah, I did. I put a lengthy question and comment in the chat. Maybe it's something that John, Jim as well could address. I think it's sort of looking toward the future for Romania in the context of this conflict and making sure that American investors aren't scared away.
Yeah,
Perry, I think it's a really good issue to raise. It's a kind of longer term issue that Alianta is going to be deep into, and look forward to your help and advice.
Good. Super. Great. Thanks.
May I intervene? Ramos Bensa speaking.
Yes.
I just wanted to offer you an additionally, since already from 6th day when they start all these things, we have initiated a group of more than 20 people, voluntary, which they help people not just to enter into Romania, but also to drive to them in different type of places. At Târgu Mureș, we accommodated in the hotels, and we have also kind of buildings of more than 30 rooms for them. So if you need help, practical help, just let us know. We have already drive children and different type of person here in Târgu Mureș. This is from Ukraine to Romania. Also, vice versa, I just want to make a shopping truck of 8 tons of food and aliments, which have been delivered to Ukraine to one foundation, which it's located in Chernowitz, and through them we go directly to the place where they needed this very fast, and it's really working. So if you need the help, just to know that we have also a group of volunteers which can be present in this.
And Ramos, how can we reach you?
We know how. John, I know how to reach Ramos, and I'm going to connect him up with Dwayne.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, listen, Jim, do you have anything else to add?
No, just thanks everybody for what they're doing, and thanks for joining us today. We'll be back in touch, more to come. Keep the ideas and questions coming. Anything we can do to coordinate American efforts with Romania to help help the Ukrainians, we're ready to do.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Raluca.
Thank you.